Oh, yeah.
All right, as you're coming in, we're going to go ahead and get started. Come on in the best you can. There's, seriously, the teacher's seat is right there. So one of you,
It's true.
go there. Go there. If you're waiting for Jeff Schrank, he's not coming. I'm Jeff Shanks, which was very confusing when we were in school together. And one time, I got his scholarship money in my account. I was really excited. I did not understand why South Wisconsin District liked me. Thankfully, I did not. I kind of figured it out beforehand. But I am Jeff Shanks, and in a minute, this is my wife,
Anette.
Annette Shanks, and she's actually going to do most of the talking, so I get to actually do the introduction part. I'm going to just give you a real quick summary of what we're trying to do, kind of tell you the ministries that we've been involved in so that you can kind of see we've been all over the place. Our goal is to talk about and give you practical ideas to leave with, and our end of the session when we finish up would be to hear from you some of the ways that are working for you, because the idea that somehow the wonderful thing about best practices is we're just sharing our best practices. And quite frankly, we've been in 5 different ministries, and there's not certain items that have worked in all 5. There's outside of basing everything on God's Word and preaching Jesus Christ crucified and risen. That's about it. Everything else, some things work here, some things don't work there, and all that. And most of you that have been in ministry more than 10 minutes realize that's true. So what we're going to be doing, real quick, we'll just introduce ourselves. I'm Jeff Shanks, and this is Annette Shanks, and the only problem is we got to share a mic, so we're going to hand off. But we're doing When Church Goes to School, what we have found, and we'll give you an intro into that. Just so you know, ministries, our first ministry together, Annette was teaching in schools while I was finishing seminary. So then first call was in rural Arkansas, little town of 300, and so they were there. There was no Lutheran schools. There had been until World War II shut it down when they shot out the front windows of the parsonage on the lot. They decided to quit doing services in German after that, and it became English, and they went to the English-speaking school from then on. Our second place was in suburban Nashville in Hermitage. There was no Lutheran school there, so Annette can tell you what she did. I had a kind of a rebuild kind of ministry. There were no Lutheran schools. Third one, I was the director of worship in Omaha, Nebraska at Divine Shepherd. And so we had a large preschool on campus. Then we had a association school, WOLSA schools at the time. I don't know what they call it now. The Concordias, and then we moved to North Royalton outside of Cleveland, Ohio. We had a large preschool, like over 200 kids in the preschool, and a school of about 450 altogether, K-8. And then the funny thing is, and that's why I didn't want Tim, my assistant principal, in here, when we were knowing, we had this sense that it was time to move on. You ever had that sense? Sometimes it's because they've asked you to move on. That was not the case. It just felt like ministry, the chapters had finished. We're initiators, as you'll quickly realize. And we had this sense, and I literally prayed, God, don't send me to another school. Not because I don't like schools, but they're a lot of work. And then you're always spending all this time. And I said, I would love preschool. I love preschoolers. Love preschoolers. Love having chapels, and they bring life to me, preschoolers, being around preschoolers. And so, of course, the first church that called me after that had preschool through 12th grade on one campus. And that's where we're at. And we met with the leadership, and both of us walked out and went, crap, I think this is where we're supposed to be. So, and we love where we're at, and we'll talk about that. But Annette, why don't you share a little bit what your life has been?
All right, because Jeff has moved me around so many places, like he was telling you, every time I moved with him, I either got a new job or I went back to school. And so I've done a variety of different things. I have started a Mother's Day Out program, was director of a preschool, taught in the public schools in Nashville, taught English as a second language, opened up a non-for-profit called Hope Learning Center at our church. I taught 7th and 8th grade religion. I went back to school at Concordia Seward and got my master's in family life, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Okay.
So just a lot of different things.
All right. So really what we're trying to do here, and this is what we're going to do, hopefully it's all right. Well, I thought we did an adequate description, and what we're going to do is try to focus on how do we bridge church to school. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's harder and harder, at least in our ministries, to get families to come like after school, to get them to come back for special events. And this particular ministry where we're at St. John in Ocala, Florida, has really been, I don't know what your school percentages are. They say about half of them are unchurched. The reality is at least 80% are unchurched. On church, in the sense that, every once in a while, if they don't have a ball tournament, they'll go to Christmas service or something. But even that's changing. So we've really had to rethink, and then COVID came along and did some things. So really what we're going to share with you is just some things we've tried that seems to have worked. I'm not guaranteeing it would work where you're at, but I'm hoping what it does is spark your imagination of what you might be able to do. All right?
All right, so we're just going to talk a little bit about what we did during COVID, and then that helps to explain where we went with our chapels that we're doing. So the thing that we started during COVID, because everybody was, had to stay at home, we started this thing called Lessons on 48th Lane. And we called it that because that is actually where we live. And so we did like once a week, right? We did like a devotion, a family devotion, and we put it online for families to be able to watch. And what we found out later, because we lived in Florida, we got to come back to school earlier than a lot of you folks did. And we found out that our teachers were actually using this. We would record it, and then they would watch it in the classrooms. And so that got us thinking about, we could actually start working with the classes and doing these 48th lane things. So we started, each time we would get a new class to come in for that half an hour, 45 minutes. And we
find that we're not meeting together in chapel.
Yeah, we were not meeting together in chapel yet. We were still, they were doing they were doing chapels in their own classroom, and they were recording them, and then we would put them out for everybody to watch. And honestly, I don't know about you folks, but we really didn't have the right equipment, so they never sounded all that great, and they were hard to hear. And then our teachers also had kids in school, and then we also gave kids the option to do online school. So our teachers just had a lot of things on their plates. And so we thought, well, this would help them. And you know what? The kids loved coming and working with Jeff and I on these lessons on 48th Lane.
All right, so we started doing that, and so chapels started becoming, and what we realized the more we worked with the kids was, I don't know what your schools have done, we grew by over 100 students after COVID. We went from about 350 to about 450, and I swear out of the 100 that came, not one of them had ever set foot in a church before. So it was like, in the old days when she started, when we were first teaching and she was first teaching, you would go into a chapel and you'd start John 3:16 and 95% of the kids would join you. We get about 20% of the kids that actually know John 3:16. So how are we going to reach them? So that started impacting how we started doing chapels.
All right, so then when we did the chapels, like he said, we decided to meet with each class each week, different classes. And it was so funny because the kids would come around and they go, when is it going to be our turn to do chapel? You know, because they were so excited. And you know what was really good? It was a positive thing for both because Jeff and I were able to get to know the teachers and the kids a whole lot better. So that made a huge difference. And so we decided that we were going to start doing themes for our chapel because, like he said, you know, kids didn't know, like John chapter 3, verse 16. When we started meeting for chapel, we also noticed that when we said the Lord's Prayer, there weren't very many kids that could be able to do that. So in our chapel series, we decided to do the Lord's Prayer. And so that was, we learned it in sign, and we did a lot of different things, and each of the kids, again, the classes would work with us. And then for our theme, you know, it was making disciples for life. Remember that? And so what we did with these, our fifth graders here, we decided to do kind of a creative theme with them. And we told them that they were given this. I gave them a whole bunch of different materials that I had, brought them in. They all got to pick, and they had to make disciples. And so this is one example of the disciples that they made. Another thing that we decided to do for chapel, just to be a little bit creative, because we were trying to come up with different ideas. We didn't always want to do the same thing each time. So at Christmas time, we let the teachers pick, you know, a part of the Christmas story. And what they did was then they had to figure out some kind of medium to illustrate that. And so this is one.
Let's ask them, do they know what this story is?
Mary Covenant.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the fifth grade classes that came up with that. Oh, wow. Isn't that beautiful? And this one, of course, is...
Oh,
whoops.
I thought there was another one.
Yeah.
I guess not.
And so, you know, Mary and Joseph going to Bethlehem, this was by a fourth grade class, and we were totally amazed at all the different things that the kids came up with their teachers. And then the really cool byproduct of all of that is, guess what? They had to look up the story in their Bibles and read about it, so then they could be able to figure out what they were going to use. And so we had a second grade class that did the Wise Men and did it all out of Legos. And so we actually put together a little video with all the mediums that they use. So that was a lot of fun.
One of the other things we did was when we first got there, chapel offerings consisted of about $25 a year, you know. And so we kind of decided, well, if we're working with all these classes, can we do something else? So we partnered with Heifer International. How many of you used Heifer at some point in time? And we went to all the classes. We got the kids. We had one class that raised almost $600. Okay, so we've gone from $25 for all our elementary per year to $600 out of one of the classes. So one of those classes that were doing that, they became entrepreneurs. They were selling bracelets. So they were making these bracelets and selling them for $1. Okay? They didn't ask permission. They just did it. You know, I don't know what all the rules are, but they were going through. But they were so excited because they were buying goats and water buffalo or something. You know, it was something. So we've done that. We've partnered together. We've done that with our local. And what we're really excited about is we're now doing much more with our church and the school. So like we do, maybe the local pregnancy center in your area does like baby bottle banks. Well, now the kids are excited about it, and before theirs were actually due before the congregations, and we could come back to the congregation and go, hey, look, our elementary kids raised $563 for the Women's Pregnancy Center. I hope you're going to at least top that, you know. And so I don't know what the total is, but you know, it's become more and more. When we first got there, one of the things that they told me, they go, we kind of operate as two different organizations. You know, the church does its thing, the school does its thing, and we would like to see that bridge. So that's what a lot of this has to do with. All right, so let's see what else. All right, so that gets in yours. if you can talk about in the past.
Yes. Jeff alluded to before that, I don't know about your church and school, but, when we first started out in ministry, it was easy to do Wednesday night programming all the time in the evenings and having different kids come in. And even in Cleveland, we had that. And the first 2 years or so I was in Florida, we decided that we would try to restart Wednesday night programming, and nobody came. And so you have to pivot then, right? You have to try and think of what can you do to get the kids to want to be a part of things. And so one of the things that I happened upon, it was an organization called Mission Possible. And the organization is defunct now. Another company bought them out. But let me tell you a little bit about Mission Possible. This is where elementary kids get together and can actually do mission projects in the community and outside the community and into the whole world. And so I thought, what a cool idea. Isn't that super cool? And so we opened it up. It's an after-school program. So some of our kids go to aftercare, and this gave them where they didn't always have to go to aftercare every single day. And so this was something that they could do, and it's Mission Possible, and we've still continued it. It's I have 2nd through 5th graders that come in together, and I have anywhere from when we first started this year, I had 29 kids that came, and 29 versus 0 on Wednesday night programming. So when I first started doing Mission Possible, the hard thing is every time we did a project, the kids wanted to take it home and show their parents, and I had to educate them on the art that, guess what? This is a mission project. You don't take it home. You give it to somebody else, which was a very hard concept for them. And I had a few tears because of it. But we did different things. We're located right next to an assisted living place within walking distance, and that became a great mission outreach for us. And so one of the things that we do every year there is we do a reverse trick-or-treat, where the kids dress up and we go over there and we pass out candy to the people. Or not candy, we do crafts, because some of them are diabetic and we don't always know exactly everything that's going on. And then we usually have the kids sing. And one year I really worked on getting to know a lot of the residents, their names, and I went over to their Christmas party, and I was so proud of myself. I sat down at a table with a bunch of older ladies, and I said, "Hi, Ruby, hi, so-and-so," and just so friends, and, I was talking to them, and I said, "Well, aren't you glad I came to your Christmas party, because I thought I was super cool?" And they go, "Yeah, next time you come, bring the kids." And I was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, they love having kids come, and we've continued doing that. They even have provided a place, because we're in Florida after all. We have sang songs to them in the courtyard, and the people love it. Now, the thing about kids is they're awfully shy about being around older people, so we're actually teaching them how to go up and talk with older people and make conversation with them. And so that's been kind of a cool kind of thing that we've been able to do. Another project we did was, I'm pretty sure this was in Haiti, but it was, we made these bandana dolls, and what they were used for is because these kids over there would go to these dumpsters and take out food and stuff and whatever they found in there. But there was an agency, a Christian agency, right next door to the dump, and none of the kids would ever want to go over. They were afraid to go over there. So the people there had these bandana dolls that all these organizations made, and they would pass them out to kind of break the ice with the kids there, to get them to come to this agency to get the help that they really needed. And so when we did that, we go through the whole story of telling them about where these dolls are going to go to. And can you imagine eating out of this dumpster? None of the kids could even imagine doing that. And so we've also partnered with the church. One of the things that we do with the church is we collect snacks to pass out to the community. And so our mission... the community workers. And so our Mission Possible kids make cards, and the firemen faces, and the policemen, and write thank you notes to them.
This is all you.
Well, go ahead and talk a little bit so that they're just not hearing my voice.
Okay. All right. I can talk about, all right, whatever this is. Oh, that's That's one of the examples. And the nice part is you get shout outs from the all the fire departments, post, and the police officers. I mean, we make 50 big baskets and go out to the DMV, which is always fun because DMV people, it's a universal thing, I see. Okay, it's not just Florida DMV people. It is all that way. And the community workers have gotten to know, oh, St. John. Now, they always credit the school. We don't care. They just know it's St. John. They always bring us treats every February. I don't know if they know it's February or not, but they look forward to it. So we used to do what do you call it? Homemade stuff. COVID killed that. But it's so much easier to just get prepackaged stuff anyway. So it's awesome. All right. One of the things that we love to do is drama. We have a whole puppet thing that we do. That bleeds over into also the chapels. This also is a precursor to when we talk about the Ocala Christmas Light Spectacular. But one of the things that we have done is then start an after-school drama team. There, I talked.
Yeah, thank you. So we put together this after-school drama team because in the other churches that I've been in, I've always been able to do that in the evening. But when I tried to do it here in Florida, nobody came. So I have 3rd through 5th graders after school on Mondays, every Monday, and they come together and we work on skits and we work on puppet things, and the kids love it. I have 3rd graders through 5th graders, and I have about 20 kids that are a part of this. And so I just have a quick story. There was this young man that decided to be part of the drama group, and he's a 3rd grader this year. I knew him in 2nd grade. He had leadership skills, but they were all in the wrong places. Wrong. And in fact, his teacher suggested that we were doing a little skit and suggested that he be in it and be like this main character. And he was awful. It was not good. And so when he came out for the drama team, I was like thinking to myself, why? And so anyway, he came and he was part of our drama team, and he was in this little skit. And Jeff had written something for the kids to do, and he actually made a suggestion to Jeff to make the script better. So we're kind of like, well, what is he saying? And actually Jeff goes, that was such a great suggestion. I mean, and he was so into it. And he became this person that I didn't even know from last year. It's weird how all those things can change in a year. But he just did a really nice job with that. So we're having a lot of fun with the 3rd through 5th graders, just offering something as another after-school thing, just to bridge those kinds of things.
Plus, we're in the process. We've hired in a part-time drama teacher to do, and so this is our feeder into her program, eventually getting kids used to. Again, puppet ministry, this is part of that. And again, you get to see just the connection points, and we'll talk more about the Ocala Christmas Light Spectacular, but you got to just get a sense of kids getting mesmerized by that, and then the kids being able to build connections, and it just teaches a lot of great skills for them to be able to communicate. All right?
So last year, I was working with another DCE guy, and we decided that we wanted to do some after-school programming for middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so we started with doing a cooking class, and it was kind of fun, but what they really liked was when we were done with the cooking class and we played a round of Chopped. Are you guys familiar with Chopped? And so we had random ingredients, and they had to make 3 dishes, and then we had judges that came in and judged their food.
I always volunteer to judge.
Yes. And they just had so much fun with it. And they liked being judged. I mean, they actually did, because the judges always had, some positive things to say about it, and also things that they could work on. And so we did different competitions. We did competitions with the middle school, like we would have rounds, that we'd have 3 rounds, and whoever won that would get to be in the championship. We also did it with rounds in middle school and high school and teachers. And it was like a big deal. Like, they couldn't wait to sign up to be part of this. And again, it was just something that we did after school. That was one of the winners from the middle school. No, high school. High school. Yeah.
It was so much fun that we were in the process of needing, I again, don't know where you guys are. Our finances actually increased during COVID and has continued to rise. And so we needed to do some restoration of some of our buildings. And one of them was the youth room that you could see as great 1970s carpet and everything else that was in there. So we thought, well, when we do this, let's remodel the kitchen part of it, and let's get to where we can have these chop competitions and add culinary arts to the schedule.
So this is our revamped kitchen that we have in the Family Life Center. And as enrichment classes, I offer for the middle school culinary classes, just to teach them basic cooking skills and baking skills, and basically following directions on a recipe. Can't even tell you. And fractions. It's unbelievable how I would give them a recipe and I would say, okay, I want you to go ahead and double this recipe. And they had no idea what that means, and putting the fractions together. And then at the end of their time with me, then they get to do a chop competition. And again, we have teachers coming in and judging it. So it's been kind of a win-win kind of thing.
Super nacho day.
Yes.
I had a good time with that.
We made nachos. We fried the flour tortillas, and then they cooked their own meat. Normally, I don't let them cook the meat because it makes me too nervous, but I let them. And then I told them that they were allowed to kind of experiment with spices to see how it tasted, and then put cheese on top. And what was really cool, on that following Tuesday, one of the young men came up to me and he said, I made a whole plate full of nachos for my family. I was in charge, and they loved what I did.
All right. Oh, yeah. Made butter.
Yeah, we made butter. The kids they couldn't remember ever doing that before. You just put cream into a jar and you shake it. And they're going like this. I mean, middle school kids. They don't get excited about a lot of things, but they did about this butter. They're shaking it and they go, it's turning into a salad. Look what's happening. And they were so excited. So then we made muffins the next time we met, and so that they were able to do that. And then one of the fun things that they did was during lunch, I thought it would be fun to have like a 5th grade Bible study. So I took 5th grade girls and we met together during their lunch period, only during that time. And so these were some of the girls that came and joined. It wasn't a have to kind of thing. They could if they wanted to, but it was really fun. All of these things helped me to get to know some of the kids and for them to get to know me as well. So we had a lot of fun doing Bible study together.
So one of the things that you've got to think through is, how do you staff? How do you staff? Well, we have a director of family life who, if we do a Wednesday night programming, will have 3 kids. Is that the best use of a salary? Is that the best use of time? And so when you think about that, we changed how we staffed in terms of 7th and 8th grade or middle school faith formation. And we've brought in a DCE instead and have that so that we can bridge, again, church and school and be able to help disciple kids. So there's some staff kind of issues where you're trying to figure out how best we do that. I know we have another school in Florida, Georgia, where they have a pastor that was a teacher that got specific, whatever that's called, specific training. And, he is kind of the pastor within that, so that he spends a lot of his time. But again, it makes more sense if you're wanting to reach and bridge. Well, then it makes no sense to use up all these nights for a couple people, or spend your time within the school day or right after the school day, and you get to be able to do that. I know one of your dreams is to be able to do story time.
Yeah, one of my big dreams is to do a story hour for, how the library has a story hour. That's one of my big dreams, is to do one over, because now we have this really nice family life center to do. And so hopefully next fall I'll be able to start that, where we can invite community kids, community little kids and their parents to come in and do a story hour. Now, we've talked quite a bit, so I was just going to see if there might be any questions.
So far.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my question would be, if there are students in your church that don't go to the school, do they come to the after school event?
Yes. If we had, I will tell you this, and again, I'm trying to solve that puzzle. We do have families that go to our church that don't go to our school, but when we were having at nighttime programming, they didn't come to that. And so you have to finally decide. They come on Sunday, they go to Sunday school, they do confirmation, they do all the traditional things. But you're right. If you were in another programming, could you? The schools let out about approximately the same time. We have had students who come over from a public school and do the after school, and homeschool kids do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've had homeschool kids come over to our programs. We don't just say it's just for the school kids. We advertise it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions real quick?
How big is your school?
It's about 450, and we don't have a large preschool. The history here in Florida, for our part of Florida, they have a program called VPK, which is actually a free program for, and for whatever reason, our school has never wanted to do VPK, so it's always been limited on how many, although we found that after COVID, we're packed out, so we're actually thinking, do we need to actually expand even without offering that particular program? So we're about 450 right now. So there's only about 25 in our preschool, though. So that's 425 from K up through 12. Yeah.
Neat stuff. How do you share what's happening in your school with your congregation?
Well, yeah.
We go ahead, we put it in our newsletter. We have the pictures, and we also have a site called St. John Community, where a lot of our people are part of, and so they can see those pictures too of the things that we do together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do St. John Community because some people are funny, and I'm even a little bit funny about how much do we put kids' pictures on our normal Facebook page or website. But St. John Community, you have to actually opt in. You have to agree to the rules, and we haven't had any issues. We monitor who gets to be a part, and the community continues to grow. I see a hand over here.
Yeah, so are you using the church members to help drive these programs then?
Yes. It varies on how much. We've got volunteers in a number of the programs, and you're about to see in some of the all hands where it gets even larger on the numbers. It's a little more challenging only in that it's after school, and so if you've got working people, that's a little challenging, just because it just is. But yes.
Yes, and again, I dream a lot about what could happen, and we have a lot of talented people in our congregation just to be able to teach sewing and, those home ec skills that used to have a long time ago that schools don't have anymore. Sewing, quilting, knitting, crocheting, those kinds of things would be great. Woodworking, having different people come and be a part of that. The sky's the limit on what you can do.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
How large is your congregation then to support that like that? Is your congregation equally as large?
No, we're not a large congregation. That's the weird part about this. Before COVID, we were at about 325 in worship. We're at about 250 in worship, so it's not a large congregation, which has always been kind of insane that we've always supported. It helps if, on a side note, Florida has scholarships for students, which helps a lot, and people that are affordable. And our people, we still have to keep battling this thing. I don't know how many times I should have a recording of it, because people complain we got too many scholarship kids. Okay, in Florida, this is seriously true. You can be a family that makes $125,000 and they'll pay a good chunk of your schooling. Okay, I don't find that poverty level at 125,000. I don't know, we're not California, LA. You can live pretty decent on $125,000. Really decent. So there's that. Yes, I saw your hand.
And I just wanted to say something to your question is we also, I will tell you this, we've been in a lot of churches and each congregation has their own personality. And one of the things that our church is super generous. Super generous. I can't even tell you, like, if we needed something, I have people that I can go to all the time. Yeah. They, mainly the church people, I will say mainly the church people. I put out a wish list of everything that I wanted in that kitchen, and I got everything that I needed.
Within about a week. It was super. Yeah.
Can I just ask about your chapels? Is it preschool through 12?
No, I will tell you, a lot of what we're saying here is up through 5th grade. This is our elementary. We have a DCE and we have a director of Christian Life Impact who lead similar programs within the middle school and the high school. Okay? You're going to see my great passion for kids. I realize I'm too old to really make an impact on a lot of the middle to high school, but the elementary still think I'm cool. All right, they call her the chapel lady, and sometimes they call you're married to the chapel lady. They haven't even figured out I'm the pastor yet, but okay, that's all right. It's okay. All right. Yes, Mr. Leach.
I was going to
Tim.
say about using the church members thing. We're right down the road.
Yeah.
From them, and we do some after-school activities a lot like Ocala is doing. And we're a smaller school and a smaller church than they are, but breakdown-wise, it's about the same. A much smaller congregation, big school. And when all of these things started pushing our school families into our congregation, so our congregation's growing as well, which I know you guys are seeing also. And then, of course, then all of a sudden you get church members who are excited about school growth, but then all of a sudden you got families who don't understand what church is, so they get a little grumbly about that. But one of the things that really...
Growing pains. Yeah.
And been good things, but one of the things that helped us was we invited our LWML ladies to come in and help with like the cooking thing that we did, and then we partnered a student with them, and suddenly they are like the biggest cheerleaders of these kids.
Yep.
These kids now have a relationship with someone in our church.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you, I just got an email while I was here that our president of our Lutheran Women's in Mission, she wants to meet with me and find out the needs of these school moms of things that we could do for them. So I think this is just an outpouring of all the different things that we're doing.
All right, I want to get through our things, and then I'll ask for more questions, but there's a couple things that I really want to hit, and I want you to experience the Ocala Christmas Light Spectacular. There's certain things that we do. Many of you probably do this. I will tell you this. Because they had this mentality, I know they didn't purposely do this, but when we got there, there was a mentality, there's the church activities, there's the school activities, and neither the two shall ever mix. And so we said about, okay, so what are some things? They used to have a school Halloween, well, they didn't call it Halloween, fall festival thing, only for school. And then when we decided they weren't doing it, so we were going to do one, and we literally had almost nobody from school because they hadn't bridged that idea. Well, the church is having that. We don't go to that church, therefore we can't. It's taken us, we're in year 6, to finally break this down. So we started doing trunk or treat. I'm sure many of you do. This last year, I really saw finally we have a whole long parking lot, and we probably had 25 to 30 cars this time. We had almost 1,000 people come through, but I would say that was almost a balance of school families and church families and school groups like Anchor Club did a car and National Honor Society did a car. And this is what I've been waiting for. So I was just watching it with glee because it's like, this is happening. It's finally happening. And that was exciting. I guess I was supposed to show pictures. All right. Oh, yeah, that was trunk or treat. All right, trunk or treat. You can see the line down. It was kind of insane, but it was fun. We didn't know what to expect. It was our first year, and we had 1,000 people show up, so that was interesting. And then this is our Anchor Club, some of our Anchor Club kids, and they dressed up, and they had a good time. You can talk about it.
Yep. Then one of the other things that we do, which I'm sure a lot of you do, is Operation Christmas Child. And so we do that. What I do is, to get the school involved in it, is I get all the boxes, and then I ask our 4th and 5th graders to come and build all the boxes for Operation Christmas Child. That way they're taking a part in it, and then the 4th graders never know what they're doing. They're just learning, so the 5th graders can teach them. So then the next year, you have your 5th graders coming and your 4th graders are learning from them. And they have a great appreciation for that, and they see all the boxes that we're putting together. And then we also have in our offering, we have collection for that, as well as monetary collection. And then we put together a packing party on the Saturday. We do it in a Saturday in October, and then we have it all set up, and people come and pack their boxes.
We wish you would have taken pictures of the actual party, but this is the setup.
Yes, this is set up. Yeah, and so we have families come in. We have a Girl Scout troop, a Brownie troop, or whatever in the school, and so they bring their girls to be a part of it. And Anchor Club came this year to help out as well. So we're slowly getting people to church and school coming together.
All right. Well, there's the 4th graders building them. They were so funny. There was one girl who was a savant at building. I don't know what her deal was, but she could do 5 boxes to 1 that I could do. She was phenomenal. All right. A couple years ago during COVID, we had this idea that we said we wanted to do something that would bring out St. John's name in the community and to be able to just bless the community. There was so much, you know what it was like. And so we came up with this idea that somebody had gone to this big light show thing up somewhere in another state, and they came back and they said it was really great, but there was no Jesus. And so we said, what if we did a big light show, but prominent in it? Not that Santa wouldn't be there and all of that, but Jesus would be a big part in it, okay? And so we started. It took us over a year to plan it. A friend of mine in Omaha actually designed our graphic, and so we launched not this last Christmas, but the Christmas before, the Ocala Christmas Light Spectacular. It is a 1.8-mile drive-through for light show. Again, keep in mind, this is a congregation that averages 250 in worship and a school of 450, most of whom are not Lutherans. They're nothing for the most part. But we set out, we're going to do this thing. So it's 1.8 miles of lights. It would have a Santa land at the end where you could go out and play games. It would be family friendly. You would have Santa. You're not charging for picture, even though we were hoping to at least break even the first year, and if we could make some money, that would be awesome. But primarily it was to bring joy into the community. And so last year we launched, and I'll give you just we partnered with the Florida Horse Park. If you would actually know Ocala is the horse capital of the country. I know you think it's Lexington, Kentucky. Lexington flies their thoroughbreds down to Ocala for the winter, literally flies them, and New York as well. There's something about the ground, I don't know. There's $1 million horse auctions in Ocala. So you start to see some of what this is. This is some of the families that we'd have walk-through area so that we could do it. And prominently in there, this year we got the Ocala Christmas. We had a lot of picture ops and that kind of thing. So we got us a sleigh this year. And so you start to just see some pictures, and it's so dark out there, but it's a 1.8 mile drive through, and prominent at the end is, of course, and that manger top goes up 40 feet. So it's hard to tell the scale of that, but it's pretty significantly tall. But we still weren't happy. The other thing we had done was every kid that went and saw Santa, we gave not only a goodie bag with candy in it, but we bought little booklets from Lutheran Hour Ministries of the Christmas story. And so every kid got a Christmas story booklet. So we didn't know what to expect. Our first year, we had 10,000 cars come through and 45,000 people. 45,000 people came. It's a month long. It starts the Friday after Thanksgiving. We don't call it Black Friday, but it's the Friday after, and we do not do, obviously, well, I shouldn't say, I'm just going to state it because some of our vendors didn't like it. We don't do Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and we finish before New Year's Eve because I don't want to be out there on New Year's Eve. So that was that. Let me see, what else? And we were still not happy, and so we saw this idea of this, a labyrinth, a walk-through prayer labyrinth that we had saw somewhere else. And so I've got a retired teacher, one of my elders, who I said, Don, if anybody could figure this out, you could. So he created the labyrinth, and everywhere where you see a little square is part of the Christmas story that I wrote, and then we have it laminated and it's on there so that everybody gets a chance to go through the walkthrough, and we did. This is one family. I was working the labyrinth one night, and I saw this. This is actually a grandfather with his two granddaughters, and they were just so excited to read through the Christmas story. And this is one of the last nights I worked, and you can see while there were people that just wanted to run through the labyrinth, this is what I got used to. The labyrinth is there for you to reflect and slow down in a crazy time of year, so please do not run through the labyrinth, and you get the option to read the Christmas story as you go. I said that about 10,000 times. But anyway, so that was doing that. And then on top of that, I created a whole sermon series to go along with the labyrinth and a set of 40 devotions to go through that as well. So if any of you would be intrigued with that, if you had room on your campus to do, we've got the plans for that, and I could even give you devotions for that, and there's possibilities as well. But watch this. So,
And this is a way too that families at the school and church families got together and we worked on this project together, which was huge.
yeah. So this year was the second year. We were over 11,000 cars, over 50,000 people as we did that, as we go through. It is a month long. It is a lot of work. We will not kid you. I will not downplay that. It's a lot of work. We added the labyrinth this year. There's just so many stories. We had somebody get engaged because their first date last year was, their very first date was coming to the light show. So this year they got engaged, and so we got pictures of that. So we're waiting for the first birth. I'm hoping that they weren't conceived during the light show, but anyway, as we go along. All right, more questions. Yes.
For the after-school programming, do they pay additional tuition for that, or is it included somehow? What's
Right now, we don't charge for it. It's just part of, the culinary classes are part of an enrichment thing, so they don't pay anything for that. And, through that light show, I know this is weird, but we all take turns selling hot cocoa so we can raise money for different things. And it's only $1 for hot cocoa and $1 for cookie. And one night it was really cold, and we raised over $900 in one night. But anyway, we're using some of that money to do that, and yeah.
All right. Yes. We also have food trucks there, and the food trucks want to be there. When you have 11,000 cars come through, they want to be there. They've done some really nice. They pay to be there, so we're learning how to do this better as we go along. But other questions. But then I really want to just hear what's working for you guys. But any other questions on any of those things? Again, I will just encourage you to think in terms of staffing. If you're a church and a school, if you can staff with some of that in mind, to me, it just makes sense. When I've talked to DCEs about coming in and teaching, you're doing those classes. Yes, you're kind of doing a teacher's job. I don't know whatever that means, but you're building relationships. That's why we've used DCEs, because we want them building relationships with our students. Yes.
Question. I don't even know where to start. We are starting a school in our community. We're in La Crosse County, Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm looking at the light show, we have a huge light show in our community that they do. What I'm thinking, my idea is to maybe ask them if we can incorporate that feature in their light show.
Yep.
And a way to get the word out about the new school.
Yep.
That
Absolutely.
So you are willing to share. You said you were willing.
Oh, absolutely.
I would get
Yeah.
that.
One of our things, again, this is our emails. We are in the process of setting up a YouTube channel. We are in a process, we're really to that point where we want to be able to share materials. We've got chapel series laid out. We've got, and when I say share materials, I don't mean sell materials. I mean share materials. So we're going to have that. We're going to have a resource page as we do that. So if you want to, again, I should have all that. If you want to send one of us, we'll put you on the email list as those things happen. We have Annette is in the process of publishing a book this year, and we've got an illustrator that we're meeting with, but then we're also going to be meeting, they've done a lot of that, and we used to have a website, and so we let that kind of slide, and we want to be able to resource schools and churches. That's really why we're here, and not to sell you product, but to just kind of let you know this is what we're doing. We're going to be working on. Annette has a bunch of things that she looks for in children's ministry, and just sharing ideas is what's cool. So what's something you guys are doing? Because I'm going to cut this off, but thank you for coming. But I would love to hear from you. What's some of the things you are doing?